Over 5 million people have reached the symptomatic stage of type 2 diabetes in the United Kingdom. It is growing faster than ever predicted. And in the United States, it's about 37 million people. Type 2 diabetes is one of the most fastest growing diseases across the world, and it is not getting any better. It has very, very serious consequences. And where does this start off from? It starts off with insulin resistance. According to one study, the prevalence of insulin resistance across the world ranges anything from 15.5% up to 46.5% in the adult population. These aren't diabetics, these are people with insulin resistance. In this episode of the Harun Rabbani podcast, we are exploring what you can do about insulin resistance. But before we do that, we are going to explore what it really means, because it's something that everybody should know, whether you are a diabetic or not. So what is insulin resistance? Insulin is a hormone that is produced in the beta cells of your pancreas. It has a very simple purpose. It helps take sugar from your bloodstream, sugar that comes from the digestion of food, takes that sugar across into your cells. Why do the cells need it? They need that to produce energy. When there is an excess amount of sugar, insulin helps store that sugar for future use in the form of glycogen in your muscles and in your liver, and in the form of fat. Insulin also helps regulate the metabolism of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. Without insulin, we would not exist, because we won't have any energy to actually run our cells, and so of course we're going to die off. Insulin resistance takes place when your cells do not respond to the insulin. The insulin is a transporter mechanism. It is a hormone. And when the cells are saying, no, I'm going to ignore you, that is called insulin resistance. As a result of this insulin resistance, the pancreas produces more insulin. So there is an excess amount of insulin helping to push that sugar into the cells. According to the NIH, obesity, especially visceral fat, the fat around your cells and organs, is the main cause of insulin resistance. But there's more to that than meets the eye. Why is insulin resistance so important to understand? By understanding insulin resistance, you can help prevent the terrible conditions you may develop later on as a result. And if you already have type 2 diabetes or any other conditions we're going to be talking about here, then you have a fighting chance in doing something about it as well. So why does insulin resistance happen? First of all, it's the food that you eat. If you have food with a high glycemic content and high glycemic load, you are going to make your pancreas work a lot more. You're going to make your cells work a lot more, and that will contribute towards developing insulin resistance. When you eat inappropriate amounts of polyunsaturated fatty acids such as omega-6 linoleic acid, or when there's insufficient dietary omega-3 fatty acids, there's disrupted circadian rhythms. That means you are not sleeping properly, or your sleep is broken, or you're sleep deprived, or you're suffering from insomnia. This will contribute towards the development of insulin resistance. A very important element is the lack of exercise or infrequent exercise. This will mean your body is taking in much more energy than it needs, and you will develop insulin resistance. And extremely importantly, that a lot of people don't understand is the frequency of eating. So let's say, for example, you have 3 meals a day, and in between your meals you have one snack. With every meal that you eat and every snack that you eat, you are going to have a spike in insulin. And that's not an issue in and of itself. It becomes an issue because there's a constant supply and flow of insulin. So you think you've had 3 meals, but your body thinks you've had 6 meals. And truth be told, people who are unfit and unhealthy, particularly those who are overweight or obese, tend to have 8, 10, 12 of those feeding incidences every single day, which leads to a very important condition for you to understand, which is hyperinsulinemia. What does insulin resistance do to your body? At a very basic level, insulin resistant means you won't be able to access your energy as much as you'd like to, but it will give you, at the early stages, pre-diabetes. So you are on the borderline of type 2 diabetes. Then, As it worsens, it becomes type 2 diabetes. You'll develop cardiovascular disease, heart disease, strokes, cancer, Alzheimer's disease, dementia. All of these are interrelated directly back to insulin resistance. And in fact, Alzheimer's disease is considered as type 3 diabetes because of that precise reason. The issue with Alzheimer's disease is by the time it's been diagnosed in your system, then it's already too late for 99% of the people on the planet. So this is why insulin resistance is something that you've got to stop as soon as possible. When does insulin resistance begin? Well, it begins with having too much glucose in the system and not enough insulin being produced. Initially, you'll have a small amount of insulin resistance and the pancreas will produce more insulin. And over time, the pancreas just cannot keep up with the demand and hence you will develop insulin resistance. Sometimes genetic factors play a role. So if you take a typical Caucasian and compare it to someone from South Asia, so we're talking about India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Nepal, those kind of countries, because of intergenerational trauma due to the famines that took place over the space of about 150 years when the British ruled over that area, the likelihood of a South Asian developing type 2 diabetes is 6 times greater than a white European person. Whilst a white European person may develop type 2 diabetes anytime between 40 and 45 onwards, typically for people from South Asia, they will develop it from their early 20s. A study at the University of Alabama on young people have shown generally now about 40% of young people have got insulin resistance. How do you know you have insulin resistance? There are several symptoms that you can keep an eye out for, beginning with extreme thirst or hunger, feeling hungry even after you've eaten, increased or frequent urination, tingling sensations in your hands and your feet, feeling more tired than usual, frequent infections, evidence of high blood sugar levels in your blood work after you've been tested. You develop dark velvety patches on the back of your neck, your groin and your armpits. You may develop skin tags. A very good predictor that you've got insulin resistance is your waist to height ratio. You're looking at 0.5, meaning if you are 6 foot tall, 2 meters tall, then your maximum waist circumference should be no more than 3 feet or 1 meter. As soon as you start seeing a tire around your waist, or you've got visceral fat, it's obvious, then you are highly likely to be insulin resistant. As an example, people who are overweight, particularly people who are obese, they all have insulin resistance. They may not have type 2 diabetes as yet, but they do have insulin resistance. So that's a good indicator. Typically, a woman is at risk when she has a ratio of 0.49 and a man is at risk when he has a ratio of 0.53 of waist to height. If you have 0.577 ratio of waist to height, then you are considered as obese. What are the most common factors that put people at a higher risk of developing insulin resistance? If you've got a sedentary or inactive lifestyle, or you've got low HDL, which is so-called good cholesterol levels, or high triglyceride levels. You have a parent or sibling with diabetes. You've got high blood pressure of 140/90 and above. You're diagnosed with gestational diabetes, which is a temporary diabetic condition when a lady is pregnant. But this is temporary. However, it can become permanent if it's not addressed straight after childbirth. If it's a woman who's given birth to a child of 9 pounds and over, there's a higher chance of developing insulin resistance, and if you've had a stroke. Are insulin resistance and pre-diabetes the same thing? Insulin resistance takes place before you develop pre-diabetes. The body will try to make up for any insulin resistance by producing more insulin. And as insulin production increases, the pancreas may not be able to keep up with the demand, and eventually you will develop pre-diabetes. Are insulin resistance and hyperinsulinemia the same thing? They are very strongly correlated, and it's a vicious cycle because as you develop insulin resistance, the pancreas produces more insulin. As you have more and more insulin in your system, you develop hyperinsulinemia. Hyperinsulinemia causes even more insulin resistance, and more insulin resistance causes more hyperinsulinemia. How does insulin resistance cause weight gain? So as you develop insulin resistance, initially the insulin will store your excess sugar in the form of glycogen in your liver and also in your muscles. And when that happens, of course, and you still are not using up the sugar, it'll then store it in the form of fat. The only way you will ever burn fat, of course, is to first of all burn the sugar in your bloodstream and in your cells, then the glycogen stores, and then finally the fat stores start getting burnt. And there are a number of ways to do it, but very simply put, it's all to do with calorie deficit, meaning not having enough calories going in to make up for the calories that you need to exist, to survive, to live through your day. And so herein lies a very major problem. If you continue living the way you've led, which has caused insulin resistance, you are going to store this excess amount of sugar in your muscles and in your liver. Now, when you do that, you will develop something called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. You can find out more about this on this episode of the podcast. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is a major precursor to liver cirrhosis and eventually, ultimately, liver transplants. If your liver dies, that's it. You're finished. And so having excess fat being stored in your liver is not a good thing. 70 to 80% of all people with obesity have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. You may not have type 2 diabetes and be obese, may not have that, but 70 to 80% of all obese people have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease and are causing serious threats to their own liver. Can insulin resistance be cured? So when we think about a cure, we think, can you pop a pill or cut something out to get rid of insulin resistance? And the answer is no. And here's why. Insulin resistance is caused by lifestyle choices, meaning the food you eat, the sleep that you have or do not have, the exercise, quality, quantity, frequency. All of these contribute, as well as many other things, towards insulin resistance. If you want to get rid of insulin resistance, you've got to get rid of the lifestyle that led you there and swap it for a lifestyle that will lead to optimal health. So it means changing your habits. Can insulin resistance be reversed? This is exactly what we're talking about here. Yes, insulin resistance, meaning your cells resisting insulin, can be reversed. That means reducing hyperinsulinemia, meaning excess insulin flowing through your system. It means putting less sugar into your system, less refined carbs. It means changing your lifestyle, creating habits that will ensure that you have a healthy, happy lifestyle. And as a result, it takes months, it might take years for some people, but as a result of taking the right action, yes, you can reverse insulin resistance. What are the keys to reversing insulin resistance? There's a number of things to consider. Number one, by reducing hyperinsulinemia. This is a big correlation between the two, remember. How do you do this? Several ways, but in a nutshell, intermittent fasting or time-restricted eating or time-restricted feeding. What do I mean by that? Imagine a 24-hour clock. You sleep 8 hours of that time. In those 8 hours, you are not eating, hopefully, right? And when does feeding start? When you wake up, for some people, straight away. And when does it stop? When they have that last snack in their mouth just before they go to sleep. And that is a very bad thing. What we want to do is delay the time that you put food into your mouth after you've woken up, and then stop eating 2 to 3 hours, 4 hours before you go to sleep. So the less time you give yourself to eat, the smaller the eating window. Next thing is, regardless of the eating window, it's the frequency of eating. If, for example, your eating window is 8 hours and you are eating 10 times, including meals and snacks, then that's going to create hyperinsulinemia. That is not going to help you reduce or reverse type 2 diabetes or insulin resistance. The next thing is, of course, that let's say you have a 1 hour or 2 hour eating window, but you eat like there's no tomorrow. You stuff yourself and you eat more than you would normally eat by having a normal day, well, that also doesn't help at all. And by the way, it's extremely possible. I've done it before. So what we want to do is, number one, reduce the frequency of meals. Number two, reduce the time you allow your body to put food in, and increase the amount of time where your body does the digestive process and does what it needs to do on its own without your intervention, simply by avoiding food. The next thing to do is stop eating foods that cause insulin resistance. When you stop eating foods that cause insulin resistance, you're going to start reducing it. So what are those foods? They include sugars, very importantly, sodas or sugary drinks. We call it pop in the United Kingdom. You want to stop those kind of drinks. You don't want to add sugars to your tea or your coffee. If you've had 4 sugars in your tea or coffee and reduce it to 3, it sounds like it's great. No, it's not. It's terrible. You want to be reducing that to a bare minimum, in fact, nothing at all, or replace it with healthy alternatives to sugar, such as monk fruit or stevia. You want to cut down on refined carbs like rice and potatoes. Don't eat so much, number one, possibly not eat any for a while, and eat more fibrous foods, fibrous vegetables. Increase your gut biome by eating probiotics, having stuff like kimchi, sauerkraut, miso soup. All of these will help buffer your sugar levels simply because you're feeding your gut bacteria and they are looking after you. The next thing to do is something called the calorie deficit. It's the very simple process of losing weight. Number one, over and above exercise, is the quantity of food and the quality of food you put into your mouth. Let's say your body needs 2,500 calories a day, which is approximately my body requirements, 2,500 calories a day. To create a calorie deficit, all I need to do is reduce how much I eat. And that way, my deficit will be made up by my body fat and my glycogen stores. So how do you do that? Just eat less. Whatever size plate of food you eat, reduce it by 20%, reduce it by 30%. You don't want to get to a stage where you're reducing it so much that it's not sustainable. You want to change your lifestyle by reducing the quantity, the volume, the amount, and the quality, or improving the quality, I should say. Reduce it incrementally so that this is something that you can continue doing for the rest of your life. Fad diets don't work. I'll do another episode on this another time. But it's not about dieting, it's about changing your lifestyle. Next thing is exercise. You know, your muscles use a lot of energy. As they use energy, your cells will require sugar out of your bloodstream, which is brilliant. So your cells will demand those sugars. What kind of exercises to do? There's a whole range. If you've got type 2 diabetes or you're obese, you want to take it easy. You want to go for walks. You want to go for swims. But if you're somebody who's capable, you want to be going to the gym, doing aerobic exercises. Pick an exercise that you enjoy, you find fun, and that is also good for your health. How often should you exercise? It's said that you should be exercising about 150 minutes in total, which is about 2.5 hours across the week. My view is that you should be exercising every day, minimum, every single day. Go for a walk. 50-minute walk, 45-minute walk, amazing. And then 2-3 days a week, go and do an exercise at a gym or a studio. The ancients weren't stupid. They developed many different ways of dealing with your health. And one of the ancient forms of medicine that still exists today is Ayurvedic medicine from the Indian subcontinent. There's one particular exercise which actually helps improve your insulin sensitivity, in other words, reduce insulin resistance. It's called pranayama. Pranayama is a series of breathing exercises that help improve, amongst other things, improve insulin sensitivity. Look into pranayama and how that can help you to help get rid of type 2 diabetes and maybe even insulin resistance if you have that. And then finally, have you ever seen somebody who's sitting there constantly fidgeting? You know, they might be just tapping their leg or bouncing their knee. That might be irritating for some people, but actually those micro movements burn a lot of calories. Those micro movements actually improve your insulin sensitivity. So if you're the kind of person who you find you can be fidgety at times, just bouncing your legs throughout the day, constantly moving, then you are more likely to reduce insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is not a life sentence. Although such a large portion of the global population have insulin resistance and there's an increasing number of people with type 2 diabetes, these are A, preventable, and B, reversible if you have it. Of course, prevention is a million times better than reversing. Finally, just look at your day-to-day activity. If somebody comes to me and the doctors diagnose them with insulin resistance or type 2 diabetes, I'm less concerned about their diagnosis. I'm more concerned about what they do from day to day. Every micro decision you make, meaning every little action you take as a result, will transform your reality. So everything that you've done up till now, every decision you've made up till now has led you to this current reality. If you change your habits and create healthy habits, be a hub of healthy habits, then over time you will get your health back and you will get your life back, and as a result, your happiness back. If you want to know much more about non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, then you might want to watch this video.